Okay, I had a lot of requests to talk a little bit about this Know and Tell by Karen Glass. I'm not going to go into huge detail because I think the book is going to do a much better job than I ever would. But I do just want to kind of give a brief overview of the process, because if you're thinking about narration or you're just learning about narration, I feel like it can be really helpful to think, okay, well, where is this going to take me? And this book does a really good job sharing how to do that. So if you're not familiar with narration, I would definitely familiarize yourself with it, whether that's reading books or going online, listening to a podcast. There are so many great resources just to learn more about it. And then once you do that, keep listening, and I'll kind of share with you just a super brief overview of kind of what this book is talking about. Now, my first disclaimer, I have a couple of them. Number one is these are not my ideas, okay? So don't get mad at me if you disagree. Number two is that if you are a teacher or you were formerly a teacher, this is going to make you cringe because this is not what we were taught. So that leads me into my next disclaimer, which is just open your mind to new ideas. Pray about this if it's something that you're interested in, and learn more about it. And if it makes you uncomfortable, then don't do it. You don't have to. But for those of you that are interested, or if this overview of learning narration, which moves into writing, seems like, hey, that sounds really great, then hang in there and listen up. There are two charts in this book that are super helpful. There's one on narration as a whole. When do you start and where does it finish? Then there's another chart on composition skills. So where do you take that narration and start writing and then slowly develop that? So those charts are super helpful in here. And so I'm basically gonna share that in word form based on my own understanding. I'm gonna share with you some ages, but please take those lightly. I can tell in my own personal home that one of my children is not going to do something at the same time as my other child, and I see that already happening. So don't take these ages as set in stone. If your child is ready earlier, great. If your child is not ready, then hang off a little bit. So please just keep in mind your own home. So the way that it starts is always with oral narration, and that starts at age 6. There is no writing whatsoever until about age 9 or 10 when they show a readiness to write. And that starts very slowly. Now, when the writing process starts, it's just getting thoughts on paper. So you're not really correcting it, you're just encouraging it. And you're allowing them to share their thoughts. You can even add a creative aspect to it if you'd like, but it's very just laid back, just getting the writing on the paper, not criticizing it constantly. The next big jump isn't for a couple years after that, 2 to 3 years after that. So the next jump was age 12 to 13. And that's when you started adding creative narration. I already mixed that up. And then also consider reading a book about writing. And she suggests one in here. Then once you've done that, you're building the already written narration. So you can start talking about intros and conclusions and all of that. So like I said, she breaks all of this down. This is me just telling you, hey, here's what this kind of outlook is. She mentions between ages 12 and 14, start editing one narration per week. So then you're starting to really work on their writing and how you can edit it. Eventually, she even says in there, it may take a whole semester to just do that, okay? This is a slow process, a lot slower than what you would see in a school. But she shares in here lots of examples of narration and the progress. You know, here's somebody that started narrating at 6, and here's how they were a couple of years later and a couple of years after that. And it's incredible. The examples are super helpful to see. So anyway, once you work past that, then you're introducing a 5-paragraph essay. So this is like middle school, late middle school we're talking about. And then finally, when you get to the 11th and 12th grade, that's when you really dig in. Now, you might be thinking, what, 11th and 12th grade? That's so far into their schooling. But listen, you haven't done nothing. You've allowed them to put whatever thoughts they want onto paper. You've allowed them to start brushing up their writing in small ways. You've allowed them to get creative. You've actually started editing some of it. But then in the 11th and 12th grade, that's when you're going to start going deeper, writing essays, using the books that she suggests to write more papers. And she says at 11th and 12th grade, if you're not confident teaching writing to that extent, then that's when you get a formal curriculum. But let it be your guide, not your master. So that's it. Now, I know that was kind of like all over the place, but I'm going to tell you, she's going to say it much better than I do. Like I said at the beginning, the reason I want to share this is because when you first learn about narration, you don't understand what comes of it, right? But the more and more you read about it, you're thinking, oh, okay, this could be really good. And I think as parents, we're always thinking about how we can make better writers as well. And the, oral narration and written narration work together. I've seen it in my own home, the laid back approach to just allowing them to write their thoughts and not criticizing it constantly. I've seen so many positive things from that. I've seen writing improve on its own. And that's kind of like what she's encouraging here. And then eventually you work more into the nitty gritty of writing. So that was kind of a quick little overview, but I hope it helps you to realize what this book is, and if it's something that you might want to take a deeper look into. Let me share a story with you. It's not my story, it's somebody else's story. I heard it on a podcast. I was listening to the new Mason Jar podcast, and I think Cindy Rollins, is that her name? She's the one that wrote Mere Motherhood. She has 8 kids, and she used this narration method. And she said that a couple of her kids, she got to graduation and she realized, oh my gosh, I forgot to teach them how to write a paper. But they were constantly narrating, right? Okay, I'm not telling you to do that. Please don't do that. But she said that at that age, they've done so much writing. Like you don't realize how much writing they're actually doing. They do so much writing in such a positive way. They're encouraged to put their thoughts on paper that when they get to that age, when they have to do the formal stuff, it's just a formula. They take their thoughts and they put it into the formula. It's not this overwhelming process. So think on that.